Hey, sports fans! Coach Nick here, and welcome to another edition of the live show brought to you on a Friday this time. As always, I'm joined by Combo to discuss the latest in NBA news. Combo, how's it going today?
All is well. It was like a heat wave here last weekend. It's a little bit cooler now, so all is well, Coach Nick. All is well.
Yeah, I always prefer the heat over the cold. Hence, I live in LA.
The,
But
I mean, the super heat over just average heat. You like that?
I suppose I'll take super heat over super cold. But you're right;
Okay.
it gets rough, and hopefully, you have some air conditioning and can get out of the shade or go to a movie. I don't know. I'm assuming it kind of cooled off at night for you, or did it stay hot the whole time?
Yeah, it gets better, but last weekend was pretty crazy. But it's all good. It's all good. I mean, it's good to be outside. There's nothing quite like New York City summer. I'll tell you that.
Oh, I lived in New York for a summer and definitely loved it
Yeah.
and had
Yeah.
a great time as an NYU student, believe it or not.
Oh wow. Okay.
In
Okay.
film class way back in the day. So loved it. I love the energy in New York. Something's going
Yeah.
to happen to you. It might be good, it might be bad. You don't know, but something's going to happen. You're going to see something on the streets of New York.
Your radar has to be on. You definitely have to be alert for sure.
For sure, for sure. Well, the title of the show today is talking about maybe, Draymond's max extension that I think he expects to get in a couple of years. And it's an interesting question because he's sort of dealing with the legacy of, let's just look at the Spurs, for instance, where guys like Tim Duncan took a pay cut to be able to keep the team together and extend their culture and their winning for a few extra years. My take on this, by the way, and it sounds like he expects it, demands it, wants it, and that's as of now. But he'll be 34 going into that season after next season. And I wonder, even though his prowess in my mind as being like the best defender of his generation, if not better overall ever, is going to translate to bucks. What do you think?
I think it will, because I think even though the market might not dictate that he's a max player, I think there is value in maxing guys, even though there are other teams that might not, because it's just sometimes about the vibes. Like, well, you're going to offer a little bit less money. Draymond's going to be angry. People are going to be upset. Like, sometimes you should just max a guy. And I know when you're trying to give out a good contract, you really shouldn't look at the past. You do got to project what's going on in the future. But if I'm the Warriors, I max him. I mean, that's just my opinion. I think he brings tremendous value to that team, and yeah, that's really my thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's like for every dollar you spend that gets over the tax, whatever it is, it becomes like $2 in luxury tax, and they're going to already have Clay and Steph. So I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. It already feels to me in a way that like they're kind of looking at tightening up the purse strings. They didn't want to keep Porter or Gary Payton II. And it's immediately after a title winning season, which we've seen in the past. There are guys who have like played well in the finals and like kind of gone on to get a much better contract somewhere else. And God bless them for doing that. So, the Warriors are in this incredibly lucky situation when they have these rookie contracts of guys who do appear to be the legit real thing that can develop into serious players that'll help them win after that. But, I get it. It's a business, but I would just assume I would kind of think that maybe Steph, Clay, and Draymond would just give them a break going forward, and that'll allow them to continue bringing, maybe another extra guy in there to play with them that can, keep this going, or to allow Wiggins to get enough money to keep him there. It seems like winning is important to those guys, and I know, again, you want to set yourself up for the rest of your life. You want to set your kids, your grandkids up. And so that's definitely a consideration, but I don't know. I think that it's going to be an interesting negotiation. I don't think it's a rubber stamp. All right, Draymond, here you go. Here's your max extension.
Yeah, I think what you're saying makes a little bit more sense. Maybe if all three of them got together and took slight cuts instead of like Draymond being the only one. I think that's a little bit better for the vibes. So, yeah, I see what you're saying there.
Yeah, that makes sense, too. I wonder if that would appeal to him more just because, listen, if Steph Curry is willing to take a pay cut, then, anybody else in that team should do that as well, or should feel like, some amount of pressure to do that, or would maybe not be angry about it by doing that. So, and by the way, these teams have ways of taking care of their players like into the future anyway, where 100%. It's not like
Also the community, right? Like the longer you stay with a franchise, the more it helps you after the fact, right? Just building that brand within the community. I mean, if those three play their entire season with the Warriors, I think it benefits all of them in the long run.
For sure. I just saw a tweet, and was it a baseball player or was it a basketball player? Someone is getting like $500,000 for 50 years. Is it Allen Iverson? Shoot,
Well,
someone.
that sounds like Allen Iverson's. I don't know the details. His Reebok contract, I heard, is lifetime.
Oh, maybe that's what I was reading. Something about that too, and maybe the NBA teams aren't allowed to do that because I know that in the past they had done that. There was somebody way back in the day.
Magic, right? Got what? Didn't he sign for $25 million for 25 years?
Or they promised to give him a piece of the team, which he did get, and then had to give it away when he was a coach and stuff. I don't remember now. I'm totally blanking, but someone's going to remind us. But I just thought it may be Iverson, it might be the shoe deal, but at the very least,
Magic actually, and I'm not even sure if I'm confusing Magic with the Nike thing because remember Nike wanted to give him stock in the company.
But he wasn't Nike. He was
right. He chose Converse instead because it was more money.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly. That cost him $1 billion, but I think he did pretty well for himself. Although the Magic Johnson, they had a Magic Johnson Starbucks. They had something that was his down like on the way to the airport. It's gone. It's not there anymore. I don't know if it didn't survive COVID, but I think he's doing pretty well as it is with his other businesses. So, but at any rate, that was a funny little aside. In the Showtime show on HBO where he passed that up. But then again, in 1979, Nike was nothing. It was it would have been a real big risk. So, but that said, there wasn't any other shoe like Converse was the only shoe, and it wasn't great. So anyway, but let's focus on the Draymond thing. So. At any rate, I mean, here's the thing. It's like it is a delicate balance, but like, can they replace Draymond with somebody else who can give them more on the shooting side, maybe, but less in the passing and maybe less in the defense? Are they relying on the fact that maybe Draymond's going to train his replacement? And then, and for the good of the team, he should be doing that and really help a guy like Wiseman or a guy like Kuminga develop that defensive instinct that he has through osmosis or whatever. And then it makes Draymond expendable in a way, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I don't know if they'll ever be as unique of a player as Draymond. I mean, one of them might end up being better. Who knows? But the way Draymond could initiate offense and be all-timer on the defensive side is really unique, and it just brought so much value to that franchise. They could continue to win with those young players, but I don't think it'll be in the exact same way, right?
For sure. Well, and the confidence that he plays with, it probably maybe shouldn't have so much confidence, but because it comes out in the passes he throws. I might even do a video because sometimes he'll just start throwing balls that like they get stolen. They're turnovers. But like I can see what he's trying. And it's like, the equivalent of a tennis player hitting the most ridiculous, game winning, shot to start the rally right away and trying to just like win the whole thing. Or a fighter trying to end the fight in one punch. But it's that freedom that he plays with that does yield the great plays they end up having. And the guy that we see that even more in is Steph Curry. He's the guy that literally has to play with as much freedom as possible to do anything he wants to do. That's what unlocks him. But you're going to get some of those, hair pulling moments from both of them that make you wonder, like, what the heck are they doing? And it's beyond me how they've never been able to really shake the turnover issues, right? The Warriors, even though they've had incredible success, they'll get on those benders and they'll just start throwing the ball away. It must give Daryl Morey nightmares because that's what he talks about when you want a good passing team and a lot of passes, but he knows that at some point after X amount of passes, the likelihood of a turnover is just astronomical.
Yeah, I mean, I think we see that with the league's most creative passers. If you look at LaMelo Ball, there's some of that. Even if you go all the way back to Pistol Pete, there's some of that. Jason Williams, like some of the league's most creative passers do lead to hair-pulling moments. And I don't think there's a way around that when you're like a flashy and creative passer, right?
Right, because you never want to stifle that at all.
Right.
I saw it. It's funny. When I was at Wisconsin as a manager, and Stu Jackson was the head coach, and we had a really, really great college guard in Tracy Webster, who, he didn't play in the NBA. Back then it was less teams, but he could have. But he would throw some really amazing passes, and then every once in a while throw them away. And I can remember Stu telling him, make that pass. What did he say? Something like, do that like 60% of the time, but the other 40%, just give me the easy bounce pass for the post up or whatever. And so it wasn't stifling as much as let's just chip around the edges and it's like, keep not do it every single time or try and keep a balance to that. And I think that wasn't the worst way to do that as well, to get a little bit better play, a little bit more carefulness with the ball. But again, when you have a player like that, which also brings another question we're going to ask in a second, because so put a pin in that about being able to teach a player to pass that way. But let's get to our first super chat. So if you want your question for us to answer your question, and you want us to give you some love and put your question on the screen, super chat is the way to go over on YouTube. And Mike Quaglia, who is a friend of the breakdown and extremely generous. Thank you, Mike. You've been with us for a while, and it's always good for super chat. Really, really generous of you. Thank you. And again, his picture indicates he really wants to know the answer. So let's get to the question right now. Am I the only one who thinks that Draymond is much more valuable to Golden State than he would be to any other team? Is another team going to pay him more than half a max deal? Okay, wow. This is throwing some fire on the Golden State side. I'll answer this real quick. There's no question that on other teams, he would be his warts on offense would be so much more magnified, and he would probably look bad to some degree. He really does benefit from the movement and the pacing and spacing that Clay and Steph and Poole and all those guys give him. That's not a crazy statement, do you think?
Not at all. And he's definitely not the only one who thinks that. As I said, I think most teams would not max Dre, right? Outside of the Warriors, but he provides the most value there. And yeah, I think sometimes it's okay to max a guy when another team wouldn't.
Okay. Right. Because you're talking about market forces and like, how dare you do that? I don't know. It's interesting because, the Warriors owners may or may not subscribe to that. They might.
Right. Like it's easy for me to say, right? Because I'm not the one paying Draymond.
Right. But I think he's got a player option, right? So he might just he could opt out and then test the market. But that would probably be a mistake by Draymond. I don't think he'd get nearly as much money as you would opting in.
Also, to your point, I mean, it showed when Steph was injured that he wasn't the same offensive player without a guy like Steph next to him, right?
For sure. Now, but it also showed the defensive things that they really need and what he brings. When he's out, you can see the defense is not nearly as good with him either. So there's, and that's something to weigh in. I would probably assume that if you had to put a weight on offense versus defense, offense is going to be heavier. It's going to be more valuable than defense. It just is. But there is that piece of the puzzle. But without question, I mean, him and Looney were competing to be who's worse at finishing around the rim. And that's just, there's something frustrating about that because both of those guys should be working to improve it, and they're not. They have not gotten better really on the margins with finishing and their package down there. So, hopefully maybe they're going to do it this year, but at this point in their careers, I don't know if that's going to change much. So that's the issue. And again, I can't think of too many other teams that have the kind of spacing and ball movement that the Warriors use. They're very unique, hard to prepare for. And as a result, that's why Draymond doesn't do as well offensively in pretty much every other setting.
Yeah, I would agree. Great question. Thanks,
Mike. Yeah,
Most
thank
definitely.
you, Mike. All righty. But let's get back to the fancy pants passing. Every team's got a guy like that, right? Does a no look, will throw, incredible angles, just weird looking, whatever. And a lot of times coaches are just like happy to have it, but don't know how he would ever teach that. Just sort of like, great, the guys, this year I have that, next year I won't. Can you teach that? Maybe we've been having this conversation before, but can you teach kids to be creative with their passing?
I don't know if teach is the right word, but you could create an environment that could be conducive to that type of passing, I think.
Okay. So I suppose that environment entails like not yelling at players when they might throw the ball away. Here's my thing. We once, maybe as a Facebook group, we were doing this. We were trying to add up all the different kind of passes you can throw. And I'm talking about like, behind the head, which, these are very fundamental because sometimes you get stuck in close, quarters in the basket area. And that is the best way to get the ball to the guy, right? So we were coming up with every different version of that. I think we were up to like 50 of different kind of passes. Underhand, you can throw full court, overhand, hook passes, all those things. So maybe that's the other thing that we're talking about would be, teaching those and really expanding it and letting players come up with their own versions. And I've done this before, hardly ever, and I don't know why I don't do it more. I used to have practices where for the next like 20 minutes, where every pass you throw has to be completely imaginative and creative. And it's fun. It gets kind of wild, but maybe that's the kind of thing that coaches need to do more, and the players can then explore in a comfortable environment in practice to find that stuff.
Yeah, I guess everybody always talks about a layup package, but probably a passing package is just as important in this day and age, right? Especially for the point guard position, because you're rarely, especially at the highest level, throwing a traditional chest or traditional bounce pass anymore.
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember there was Brian McCormick, friend of the Breakdown, who's written a couple of awesome books about the fake fundamentals of the game. Discusses how maybe it was Derek Fisher takes over for the Knicks. They're running the triangle offense, so he gets out these drills where they're literally just throwing chest passes 15 feet back and forth at each other, and everyone's marveling. And oh my God, they're looking at the attention to detail. And then you go and you chart how many times a player in an NBA game throws a two-handed chest pass open like that. It's never, basically. So in reality, they're not really getting much out of that as far as a skill development thing. I will say that I've seen Coach Kerr do this in his practices as well, like the two dribble, jump stop, pivot, pass back, things that you'll never see happen in the actual game. And part of me feels like it's not to develop any kind of skill or develop any kind of rhythm in their offense. It's almost like if I can get them to do that, then I know that they've bought in. And if I can get Steph Curry to do that in the training camp, full-throated, and everyone else sees that, and then they're like, well, crap, I better do that too. That kind of gets that buy-in. And, even though you might be like wasting time, quote unquote, with something that doesn't really apply on the court, there is some notion of that where maybe that's what you're trying to develop and that can work for you. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I guess you're working on the skill of a jump stop, which could help you in some situations. Will you throw a bounce pass, like a basic bounce pass after a jump stop? Probably not. I mean, it's possible, I guess, on a fast break, like a 2-on-1. But yeah, you don't really see the basic passes that are taught in, like, let's say, basketball camp anymore, especially at the highest levels, because you'd just be passing it like right through a defender's chest.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it'll just be turnovers all day. You definitely need those one-arm passes from different angles and different set points. And also, I think working on your handle is the one skill that helps you with shooting and passing, right? Like if you work on shooting, you're not really working on passing and handle. But if you work on handle, you're working on passing and shooting. And I think having a great handle could help you become a better passer and more creative passer as well.
Sure. Well, it's kind of like when we watch Steph Curry do those 2-ball drills when he's bent over at the waist and he's like facing the ground. And I've always thought that doesn't have anything to do with dribbling. But what I think it helps him with is the pickup from the dribble into the shot, like to develop that kind of skill that you need, because his pickup off the dribble for the shot is as clean as anyone I've ever seen ever. And I'll see NBA players screw the pickup up. It's not clean. And then they miss the shot because they didn't quite get it, with their hands right where they need them to be.
100%.
So there are moments where what looks like something that's for one kind of skill, it's actually developing something else. And I'm listen, you can't argue with anything that Steph does. Whatever he does, you can do, and that should help you, but it helped him. But sometimes there's just more efficient ways to do those things. So I'm always kind of curious when I see that stuff and whether or not these coaches really believe, like when you see like the 2-dribble, jump stop, pivot, pass back, whatever, like if they really are thinking, God, this is great, we're working on our offense, or is it the God, this is great, they're listening to me, which could very well be more important than anything else. So
we got to get Steve on the show and ask him.
Well, he's been on the show before, never quite in a call-in situation, but we never know. Be careful what you wish for. But maybe we can get him on. What else? Oh, so let's move on to the Zion interesting news. I mean, listen, we are in the dog days of the offseason, and not a lot of things are going on. KD is not getting traded for now, I suppose. So Zion, this news comes out that he's got a new clause in his contract, or I don't know if it's new, but it comes out. But it's weird. It's a very strange calculation where it's the body percentage, it's body fat and his weight. Is that what it is?
Yeah, like they add it up together.
And it can't exceed a certain amount, which is weird because certain people carry body fat in a different way, and it's like it probably should just be either or and for that to trigger in. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Well, the Miami Heat have been doing this forever. So it's a little bit out of their model, and I think it fits with Zion. And I do think it helps both sides, right? If it keeps Zion in shape, that's essential. And they need a player that's not out of shape because obviously he won't play at the same level on the court, and then he'll be a less risk for injury. So,
yeah, I mean, all that I agree with. All that would be nice. I don't know if I believe him, or I don't know if I believe that he would actually be able to do it. I mean, it just seems like. I mean, he's still pretty young, and it's still remarkable to me that you'll have NBA players who figure something out at 28, like Wiggins, for instance. I think with a straight face was like, wow, I never realized I needed to play really hard on defense every possession.
A lot of that was the system he was playing in. Like Warriors was totally different than the Timberwolves, right?
Yeah, but you would have thought he would have had that realization. I remember who was the guy, the lefty, who's went to UCLA. and then was in the Timberwolves, and then phased out. He was like the biggest thing going in high school, and then it turned out he's probably a lot older than they thought he was. You know who it is? Oh my goodness gracious! Someone's going to tell me in the comments. Who is it? Lefty, not a good shooter, about 6'5", like, it had all the hype in the world, played at UCLA. Somebody tell me who that is.
How long ago?
4 years ago. Come on, somebody out there. Anyway, the point being that he also had the same kind of realization. He's like, yeah, I didn't think I realized I needed to play hard or whatever it was. And then he kind of like acknowledged it as if he was going to do it. And then he did it for like 10 games and then just couldn't do it. Shabazz Muhammad. Thank you. Let's put him up there. Let's give him a little love. Thank you so much, JBMS1. Shabazz Muhammad, remember him?
Yes.
So out here on the West Coast, which I think he was from, somewhere around here in Vegas, wherever he was from, like had so much like this is the next Harden, or maybe it was, probably after Harden got slashed, and I always kind of thought, all right, he doesn't really shoot that well. He's not like, a great athlete. I don't know the hype, but it turns out I think part of it was, unless I'm talking out of my butt, I think that he was at least a year older than they thought he was. So he's going up against, 16-year-olds and he's 17. And that's a big difference, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, that's a huge difference. I mean, a lot of guys like to reclassify now and all types of stuff with their age. So, I mean, it's nothing new, right?
It's not new, but you got to get it right. Like, reclassifying is one thing, and at least this guy, though, they were pretending that he was younger than he was, I suppose. And so that kind of skews your scouting of him, right? Because you think he's this age, he's not. And it ultimately showed up. But the question then could very well be, there just was a question of like whether or not he would play hard and hard enough. And that bore out, and it wasn't something he could learn and consistently do, which is just beyond. It's weird. How do you do that? And by the way, I guess it shows you how much talent he did have, but he got to the NBA without understanding that, without being able to sustain that. So the same thing is going on with Zion, though. It blows my mind that he just won't take this seriously enough, because I don't think that there's anything out of his control, right? Like sometimes you might have something with your body that you simply can't lose weight, but I would imagine. I haven't heard anything like that, right? So I'm assuming that like this is the thing he could limit his calories, increase his cardio. He probably has done a ton of cardio, and lose the 25 pounds he needs to lose.
I feel like it's a totally fixable issue. So I would agree. Yeah. He just has to be focused on it. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, the only question is like, if you're gonna add up those two numbers, that just might be the weird thing. A weird way to do it, I guess. But
how much money does he lose if he doesn't reach those markers? And what if? And also another thing is like, what if he's still playing great, but he doesn't reach those markers? They might not even hit him for it, right?
Well, you brought this up as a good topic. I'm like, great. I'd seen a couple tweets, but I don't have the answer. So here, Zion Williams' new contract extension requires weight and body fat percentage to add up to less than 295. Okay.
Yikes.
Failure to meet this could reduce his guaranteed money, but I don't know if I'm seeing any numbers here. That was from Bleacher Report. Thank you. No, I don't see any numbers, but it's probably a lot. That said, if he has a good agent, they're not going to let him do that much, but it's probably something enough to make him do it. Mike is back with another super chat, by the way. Let's get to this one. Thank you so much, Mike. Do you take into account game situation and home away when critiquing a pass attempt? Simple play versus getting the crowd involved. Well, absolutely. I mean, one situation you can take into account is like, are you up by 15 or 20 in the third quarter? Yeah, then great. You can try that. Oh, and then the same for shooting as well. A right wing, slightly contested 3-point shot when it's 10-9 in the first quarter is not the same shot as a down by 3 right wing 3-pointer slightly contested with the 10 seconds to go, right? Those are different shots altogether, even though they're from the same spot, the defender's in a similar area. So without question, I would everything has context, right? I don't think that's crazy.
No, just like if you dunk on somebody, I think those 2 points are worth a little bit more, right? Like it gets your team hyped, demoralizes the opponent. So like even let's say you're going down, you have the chance to dunk on somebody, but maybe you do see somebody for the open 3. I think that dunk and 2 points might be more valuable for the open 3 in the context of the game. You never know how that could shift momentum or add to momentum.
Yeah, although when you're down by 20 and you dunk and you kind of like do the whole flex, like that doesn't work either so much. I saw that a little bit in the Lakers footage I've been going through. I'm prepping a video right now. Actually, there's a version of it on Snapchat. So if you're not following me on Snapchat, I've got a B-ball breakdown show sponsored by Snapchat, which is everyone's loving. So go over there and check it out. They're like, basically similar versions of what I'm doing on YouTube, but more concise. But anyway, so I was watching a lot of that, and I'm like, whoa, like this looks pretty good. Russ could be doing this, but I was like, I'm kind of curious. And you kind of glance and you look at the scores, and on so many of these games, they're down by so much as it is that like the other team's probably not even playing defense that hard, so they're getting those dunks. But without question, yes, there is a way to, and that again could tap into this creativity. Like, if you keep them aggressive, if you keep them, looking to be creative, like that's how you play to win necessarily, compared to sometimes when players, they get up by 20 and now they want to take too much time off the clock before every shot. They get timid. And then the other team is they're down. They got to go fast. They're playing the way you want your team to play, and they come right back. It's probably one of the biggest reasons why we see these big wild swings. It's like the team that did that, what they were doing to get up by big, they stopped doing. And the other team starts doing what the other team was doing, and then it's a cycle, and it gets right back in the game. By the way, the NBA doesn't mind. They don't like blowouts. They like close games and probably like entertaining wild ones. Do you like games that do that when like one team's up by 20 and the other team comes in, they're up by 10, and then it goes back and forth like that?
I think it can be entertaining, but to your point, I think you should always let your team know, let's build this lead and not try and hold on to it, right? Yeah. I think that's a great way to coach, because once you start holding on to the basketball and, as you said, not playing the way you normally play, that's when the other team has a great chance to come back.
Now, if I were to coach a team again full time, I would definitely do a lot more just game situations. Put some time on the clock, put a score up there, and run this out. Give them, put 3 minutes on the clock. You're up by this, you're up by that. I think you need to have more of those situations. And by the way, you could put, make it the second quarter, put a team up by 20, and then with 4 minutes go to the halftime, and then let that go. It doesn't have to be end of game every single time. I do feel like that's helpful to develop that and keep them. Keep your team just sort of more in tune with the natural ebbs and flows of the game, and they're just better prepared. We have another super chat from Braun, best friend of the breakdown. Braun, thank you so much from Canada. Hey, Coach, what makes some of the best shooting coaches so effective? Chip just signed with OKC, and do you think Fred Vincent can fix Zion's shot form? Yes. Well, it's an interesting question, and listen, I don't want to light anybody on fire. I would like to see. I've read a lot about what Vincent says. And I would like to actually see it in person, because there are lots of ways to skin a cat. Is that wait? Can we still use that phrase? That's okay to say, right?
I think so.
See, they're going to get mad at me. I don't know. But there are a lot of ways to get things done, right? I'm sure. How many coaches have you had that have worked with your jump shot?
A bunch, yeah, always. I talk to Rob Fodor often about shooting, and I learned a lot in the past few years that. I was playing basketball for 25, 30 years, and I learned a lot from him. You could always learn more about shooting. So, yeah, and you're right. There's a lot of different ways to do it and a lot of effective ways.
Yeah, and Rob, I know we've connected a little bit, but you obviously get to talk to him a lot more. I get an occasional IG chat message back. He's the Heat shooting coach. I just kind of wonder, there's a certain age in my mind that and by the way, I'm that age as well, but if there's a guy my age or older, and that's the Chips, and that's Vincent's a little bit younger, but I'm a little bit weary in the beginning, because I wonder if they're too influenced by what we grew up with, which is all wrong as far as I'm concerned. What makes me so effective is, here's the thing. I remember back in the day, though, doing the wrong version, which is probably what a lot of the coaches still do at the NBA level, like forcing the Klay Thompson, we're going to eliminate stuff, which I think is the wrong move, to try and, what you end up getting, like with Chip England is a good example, because he is sort of, rooted in the past and has had success. But what you get is a guy like, Kawhi. They eliminate extra movement, and I don't think that's the way to go, because it makes you like robotic. And so Kawhi is one of the few guys who shoots really flat. He's got huge hands, so that really helps amongst compared to other people. Really high release point, all the things that we don't see the good shooters do anymore. And he might just be the exception to the rule. But out of that, because it might be harder to do, because they're sticking to old versions of things, you end up taking like more shots and more reps, and that doesn't hurt you, and that could get you somewhere, but it might take longer. So anyway, so that's the whole thing that I'm worried about. So variability is a big one with me. And I'm getting just tremendous results across the board with the people I'm working with, the younger guys, and even the 10-year-olds shooting the high school 3-pointer. And what I mean by variability is we train. I don't know if we talked about this before, but you know how when you're in the on deck circle and you're swinging a bat and they have those donuts in the bat, those weighted donuts, and then you take them off and then all of a sudden the bat feels amazing. So I do that with variability training on shooting. So we'll just change the way they turn. We'll change the amount of dip. We'll make them shoot higher arc, lower arc. Every variable you can do in the shot, we accentuate to the different extremes, so that when they come back to what their normal rhythm power is, it feels so much better. But then they can make more shots. Or we realize that, hey, that shortened dip that you were doing in that variability training is actually a much better way for you to go. It's giving you what you need. And so I've discovered that, which you never would have if you had this one way of doing it, this one ideal that you're trying to, force people into. It's a lot of talking, but, throw some stuff back at me.
Wow, there's so much to unpack there. I feel like, I don't know if wrong is the right word. I guess it's all semantics, but we just have more information now. Like, we're always getting better. So maybe what we know now will seem wrong 20 years from today, right? We're always learning.
Yeah, that's why it's a great point. And it's funny because it's almost like, the 3-point frequency we're shooting now compared to 20 years ago, right? Well, in 20 years from now, that might be really, really terrible and low or high or whatever, and we might discover all those things. So that's a great point, but I do feel like we're onto something, and I feel like when I see the players improve as much as they do from hour to hour and week to week, that's the proof I need. Unless in 20 years we're going to have players that shoot 60% from three, which who knows? Like, maybe that would happen. I don't know. I think we're getting closer to the maximum output we're going to get. So anyway, so that's the question. I just read something about Vincent because he fixed Lonzo Ball's shot, quote unquote, fixed it. I always felt like Lonzo could probably still be consistent with his old form, but there's no question that it opened up some things. He couldn't have gone to his right to pull up the way he shot before, and that's just, you don't want that to be limiting you that much. So that's good. And Lonzo certainly respects the work they did and recognizes that it helped him. So I'm not going to, I don't want to put anything down on there. Tony Parker was an example they used when they were mentioning Chip England. And it's like, if there's a guy that I would never want to use as an example of a guy, of a good shooter,
I guess it's just because he's a Hall of Famer and not really his shooting ability, right?
Yeah. And Tony Parker, it's weird. Maybe it's a French thing. He has the thing that Rudy has, which is they have trouble syncing their wrist extension with the elbow at the same time. And so if you've seen that Rudy do it, it's ugly, man. Like, his elbow will snap and then the wrist will extend, if at all. And with Tony, he wouldn't extend the wrist consistently. Very strange thing that might have confounded everybody because not many players have that issue. But that's one guy. And so at any rate, I would not have used him in that release or whatever they were talking about on Twitter with the Chip. But at any rate, obviously, if you're talking about what works and what the most important thing, we've done this before in the past, but I'll just throw it out there. The rhythm is the most important thing for me. I'm doing a Russell Westbrook video, and one of my viral tweets from a couple days ago was telling people that over the last 12 games of the season, Russ shot almost 40% from three. And he completely changed the way he shot it. He was not hanging in the air on his jump. The jumper is had a much better rhythm dip on the catch. And obviously most of them were catch and shoots. I think he probably really got rid of a lot of the off the dribble stuff. And so those are my big things: alignment of your feet and the rhythm of the shot. And I compared an air ball in the right corner to a swish in the left corner, and you can see how much earlier he was bringing the arms up in conjunction with when he was tapping that right foot in the 1-2. And that's everything. That's the rhythm we're talking about. And you have to be a good coach to be able to recognize that and teach that. And that's the question of, is Fodor doing that? Is Chip doing that? Is Vincent doing it? I don't know. Maybe, I hope. And then that to me that's like one of those big ones where it's like, I have a hard time getting behind someone who's not attentive to those things.
Yeah. I mean, Rob always talks about how the key to shooting is shooting it straight. So he keeps it simple.
Shooting it straight. Well, I say that too. I say all good shooters shoot it straight. It might be long, it might be short, but they keep it straight. So that's true. And Fodor loves to do all those, like, you're back to the basket and then you dribble and spin, right, and then shoot it, like that kind of stuff. Which I
think a lot of that is because, and I don't want to speak for him, but it gets the ball ready, right? It gets the ball in position to get that energy from your legs on the way up.
By spinning it 360 into a shot.
Well, I guess it gets your hands ready. Hands ready. Hands ready is always important, like getting it up quick enough, right? Because you don't want to lose that energy from the legs.
Okay. I don't know. Okay, I'll have to see it. I guess I don't know. I'm it's not grabbing me. But,
he could explain it a lot better than me. We should
Fair
have
enough.
him on the show. Yeah.
All right. Well, do you do those drills when you're training?
I did not do those drills. I did not know Rob when I was in the middle of my basketball career, but I apply some of it now, like, messing around on the basketball court and shooting it around. And yeah, I do see a difference when it comes to my energy transfer because I think I'm losing less energy on the way up than I used to. Like, I get more of the energy from my legs now than I used to.
But specifically because when you can feel that when you're doing a 360 hop into
no, I don't do those. I do the roll up drill that he does, which keeps the ball close to your body, gets it up before it gets your hands ready.
Well, okay, interesting. I'll have to check that one out. I mean, listen, I love that. That's why I go and I visit as many trainers as I can. I want to see up close and personal what they're doing, and then I can take things from there and learn more stuff. I love doing that. So, so I'm game. I'm open. I like to see it. Sometimes I do see, like we talked about this before. I've kind of burned down the entire Australian basketball community because somebody over there is teaching no dip and 10 toes to the rim, and it's like that. This is why you got guys like Josh Giddey.
To change the subject slightly, I would like to see what they're doing in Serbia in terms of player development and team development, because they develop a lot of great basketball players, even the ones that aren't in the NBA. Like, I want to see what they're doing there.
Basketball players in general, not necessarily shooting.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Because I've heard that South Korea does something about shooting. All their guys are great shooters. I don't know exactly why, but my buddy who's coaching the Philippines was telling, this is several years ago now, but he goes, something that they're doing is like they don't have great teams, they don't win a lot of games, but they can shoot the crap out of the ball, and they're doing something that someone else is not. I don't know.
You know what the most, like, speaking of not being great but being a great shooter, you know what the most annoying thing in pickup basketball is? Guys that can't play basketball, but they can shoot the hell out of the basketball. Like, they're shooting 80% from three, but everything else they don't know how to play.
Right.
And then you're playing 2s and 1s, so the analytics on it is crazy. You know what I mean?
But then in pickup now these days, I feel like if you're a catch and shoot guy, you're screwed. No one's passing it to you to shoot it.
Right. Well, even if it's crazy off the dribble stuff and shots that nobody would take in a real game, right? Just like nonsense, but it tends to go in. Like, it's just funny.
I hear you. I mean, that's why it's like I kind of want to go and watch some more pickup these days, because my impression, I haven't played pickup forever. I have to imagine it's really annoying. Like back in the day, we would screen and we would pass and we would move, and isn't it just like a one-on-one ISOs these days?
Well, I remember when I was playing basketball overseas and coming back, the best runs to go to were like the college runs, because they would like put in a little bit of a system, even though it was free flowing. But you're right, like everybody wants to be KD, Kyrie, and James Harden in pickup runs, even guys that can't do it, and it's almost like 10 guys playing ISO basketball. So
yeah, right, and it's just like I don't want to play. I wouldn't want to do that. I don't know anybody who would either. So that's just frustrating. So then how do you get a game that's good and worthy of playing? I don't know. Maybe in the comments, let us know what you think about that. Like, are you guys playing in pickups games that are ball movement, player movement, still get some layups out of it, and or is it just all like pick and roll and jacking up threes? It reminds me, like, I was a really good shooter, and so like I would hit 1 or 2 threes in those games. I don't know if you've ever had this experience, and then like people on my team would just start jacking them up as if like, oh, I can do that too, man. And then they would be like bricking them, and I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, why? You don't have to prove anything here. Are you familiar with that phenomenon?
Yeah, I mean, there's always stuff like that going on in the dynamics of a pickup basketball team. I would say that like they'll do it in that situation, but when they need to win the game, they'll pass you the basketball again, right?
Oh, okay, that's good, right. Yeah, and the 2s and 1s thing, we didn't do that back in the day. If you shot a 3, it was a 1. It didn't add that extra.
Oh yeah, I remember like outside basketball used to be like that, but everywhere is different. Everybody has their own rules. Win by 2. I remember playing in college runs, like you used to have to make a free throw at the end to win it. Like, there's all different kinds of things you could implement into the
right. Well, I ever tell you my Sean Miller 2-on-2 story as another basketball. I was a manager in Wisconsin, and Sean Miller was one of the assistants at the time, and we would play 2-on-2 after practice all the time, and they got pretty heated. And luckily at that point, Sean was 3 or 4 or 5 years out of playing, because remember, Sean Miller was like an awesome D1 guard. Like he was awesome. But at that point, I could hang. I could play with him. And I remember one time we played, and we would play probably straight, to 11. And he played, I guess, coming from the East Coast. Maybe you recognize this. He felt so. Anyway, I hit the game-winning shot on a jumper, and he fouled me on purpose, and I still hit it. And he was convinced that you couldn't count it if you called a foul. And nobody anywhere in the Midwest ever had heard of that. They're like, no, if you foul me and I make it, it counts, whatever. And it got heated.
I have to admit to you, I'm with Sean. That's how we play in New York.
It would have been. I should not have called it. Is the answer?
Yeah, because the thing is, like, if you play that, it still counts. People might start calling foul too much, right? And just call it every play and not being honest. So I think that's part of the reason why we grew up doing that in New York. But if you call foul, like also calling it late, we didn't like that. And if you call foul, you get the ball, but the basket does not count. Like, wow. Different gyms do different things. But growing up in New York City, like the way I grew up, that's how we played.
Right. I mean, the only issue with this one was as I'm rising up in the air, he hit me on purpose,
And you called it, right?
To eliminate the possibility of that being the game winner, which is silly. But
the most important thing out of all of this is to communicate what are the rules of the game beforehand, right?
Fair enough. Well, anyway, we got into the argument, and I think I won the argument, so we checked it up to play again. And I believe the first play I ended up in the stands he screened at me, and I didn't stay on the court on that one. So he got his point across, and I think we ended up like sort of not, they might have won that next game. I think me and my partner, who I believe is the head coach at Ball State, James Whitford, is still there. He was the head manager at the time. And I remember we kind of gave each other a look being like, all right, it's not worth it because there was a minute there after he did that where I was like, all right, this is on, like, we're going to really get into it. And I'm going to, you know how competitive juices get flowing. But we decided, it had ratcheted up too far. But with that in mind, we have Chris who wants to join us for the second part of our show. So let's bring him in here. And
yes.
How do we do this again? How do we get everybody? There we go. All right.
What's going on? How you guys doing?
What's up, Chris?
Nothing much.
Always good to see you in the chats and remind us. Oh, there it is. Wow.
Got the shirt on.
That's a nice shirt.
Look at that, everybody. Yeah, it is, right? Yeah. Let me hear. Can you stand up? Let's see the whole thing. Let's see. Here, give us the whole. Oh, there we go. Oh, yeah, you lifted. Yeah, and the logo. I like that. I think I had agonized over the size of the logo for a long time, and I think that ends up being that works.
Yeah, it's a solid size for the logo.
Nice. All right. What's going on? Do you have any thoughts about any of this stuff we're talking about? It's
about the pickup rules real quick.
Oh yeah. So how do they do it in Florida? Like,
okay. So I played because I grew up in Georgia also. So I played most of my pickup there, and it was basically if you called foul, you get the ball.
Right.
No. And also if you say, and there's also a thing like and one, right? If you say and one in Florida, if you say and one, I think you get the bucket. You get the bucket, or it's your ball no matter what, right? So even if you score, they count it. And if you it counts as a foul too, which is so weird to me. But you'll literally get into arguments about it. There's no downside. So basically, exactly. So if you get fouled and you say and one, there's no downside on your part on the offense, which makes no sense. But that's how they do it down here.
Yeah, but here's the thing: if you're that guy who's calling phantom fouls, you're not going to make it out of that game, right? Like they're either going to kick you out of it, or you're going to. It's going to be terrible, right?
That's just how they play, right? It's weird. Yeah. Anytime, like you go up for a jump shot, a layup.
What's the difference? Let me ask you this: what's the difference between calling foul and one? Is there a difference, or you just say
nothing in Florida? Nothing in Florida. Nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
Well, first, and one is just trash talk in New York. Like we don't say and one, we say ball.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and in Georgia, when you say and one, it's you don't get the bucket even if you score it. I mean, no wait, you do. You do get the bucket.
You get the bucket and you score it, right? Which is how it should be. Like this is crazy, but
exactly.
By the way, how you call the foul? Because no one actually will yell out foul, right? Hey man. But what I'll say is, I think we should say, I got one. That's what we would say in Chicago in playing pickup. Okay. Is that not what you guys say?
No.
what do you say, Chris, when you have to call the foul?
What do I say? I don't really call fouls, to be honest with you. I just play through it. I
Right.
really
Yeah,
don't
me
call it.
too.
Yeah,
Combo.
unless it's just like.
But Chris, that's
Yeah.
okay to do that, but don't say it on the B-Ball Breakdown YouTube channel because everybody you're playing pickup with is going to hack you now, Chris.
Right. What do you say, Combo? Do you say got one? What do you say? Give me
I
one.
say ball, like when I want the ball, yeah. Like,
Yeah,
and I try and do it beforehand, so there's no like issue. Like, did you call it late?
Mhm.
Because that's the thing when you're not counting the bucket, right? Like, did you call?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All I know is that if you're going to the basket, whatever, and you get fouled and you make it, that should count. And then, by the way, that's good. Then we can move on. You have to deal with even the call. The ball bucket went in, great. How about the guy that will jump into you and then call the foul? Now that's the one. I was in a weekly game with a guy, Josh. You know who you are, and it was the worst thing. It was like almost to the point where I didn't want to go anymore because I was good. I knew what he was going to do, and I even jump out of the way. And like he would still call it like without hardly any contact, if any. And you know those guys, right?
I've never had to play against anyone like that, luckily.
Oh,
Who
wow.
jump into me and then call it?
Yeah.
No, that's never happened.
Oh,
Never.
great. Lucky. You're lucky. How about you, Combo?
Not as much of that. I mean, I think they kind of be like laughed off the court a little bit, or like
Gosh, I wish he would have been laughed off the court, but man, because like he was smaller, so like this is what he has to do. Whatever.
Like what? Like in pickup is like the time that you don't look to draw fouls, right? Like, I mean, obviously, I mean, I was good at the tricks at drawing fouls, like in games. I got to the line a lot, but like, I'm not doing that in a pickup game. Like, what's the point? I mean,
right. You know what my problem was? I realized later on reflecting, I played defense too hard in pickup.
I mean, that is a thing. I think, like, I was just thinking about this the other day. Playing hard is great, but you have to play hard and in control is the most important thing. Like, if you're playing hard and out of control, it's like it just leads to bad run. So,
yeah, and you could hurt people out there.
Yeah, I mean, I never hurt anybody, but it would, it'd be physical. I'd cut guys off like on drives, whatever. I just sort of, I'd be in a stance. I'd play the way I would have played in the regular game. And I'm realizing now that there wasn't, I can even remember one time where I was like, I had been hurt for a while and I finally got back and I was feeling really good. So just kind of playing hard. And I think I was like probably denying the guy. And the guy finally said to me, he's like, listen, just touch the ball a little bit. Like, and I was just like, oh, you're right. And so I totally, that was one of those moments. I was like, shit, what am I doing? Why am I denying this random guy the ball like on the wing? Like it was stupid.
It's like I think there are some unwritten rules to basketball. Like, yeah, okay, you should be able to do what's ever in the rules of basketball. But like, why are you face guarding a guy right when he gets to the gym and face guarding him the whole play, and you don't even care if you lose or win, just as long as your guy doesn't score, but then you lose, just not letting the guy play basketball. You know what I mean?
This is nonsense right here. Whatever, right here. But listen, I was physical, but I wasn't.
I don't think it looks like the way you were explaining things, Coach Nick, makes it seem that way, not the way it looks, right?
Right. Well, I'll have to I don't have any footage, so we're not going to know what that looked like. But at any rate, yeah, you're right. I mean, listen, if you're going to play defense, then yeah, there's going to be. I just remember like if you played against me, like you played against me, like you would have been.
Were you diving on the floor, Coach Nick?
Absolutely. I was diving. I was doing all that stuff. The other thing was I would always get the guy that could really score, and not even like let's say no one knew who I was. It just like I can remember even like later in my life, and I didn't want to play defense that hard, and like we go up against these like high schoolers, and this guy was like Ray Allen. I'm like, why am I guarding him? And somehow being me.
Your teammates were ducking smoke. That's
what
it was.
There must have been well, and they sensed something like, look at his defensive stance, like he should. But I didn't even want to. But like we come down, next thing you know, like he's in front of me, I got to pick him up anyway. I guess that's just when you are, whatever. If Coach Nick looks like a guy you leave open but consistently hits the stand. No, I believe it or not, I was the guy that once the game started, they're like shooter, and they always had to yell it out because it was over. I really was that guy. I got to the point I was taking like one dribble in half court and just, jacking it up. But I would only do that if we were up, right? When you're up by like 2 or 3 in those games to 11, like that's a backbreaker. I love those.
I'll tell you what, I've been in pickup lately. I've been definitely seeing the one leg shot, and not just for myself, more and more often.
Awesome. Yeah. I love it, man. And I just tweeted it out, right? The guy who was doing it in Europe all the time. I was working with the kid. Yeah.
So let me ask you this: is that guy? Because I haven't seen that guy play a full game. Does he shoot it like the majority of the time, or he just like adds it to his bag often?
I don't know how many. I got to get some synergy on him because
Yeah.
I've only seen those clips. But I've been trying to get him on the show. I'm trying to figure out who I know who knows him or get me in touch with him. So I'm working on that. If there wasn't like war in Ukraine, because he's kind of in that area, I believe, is the last time I remember. I can't remember if it's Estonia or something like that, right? I wouldn't go now. But at some point, I got to try and get in the court with that guy and talk about it. But I'm working on it with the kid right now. In fact, I'm going to give you guys all a. Oh no, where is the video? It doesn't come up when I type in delay.
I want to know like how much percentage of his shots are actually off 1 foot, or they're just showing like 10 shots of the whole season that he did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sure off the pick and roll when he's going downhill like that, he's probably shooting a number of those. Where do I want to share the video I was talking about with you guys. Let me look at it.
What's this guy's name?
So, I don't even remember his name. Someone just sent me the video where every pick and roll he comes off of, or the ones we've seen, he is shooting off of 1 foot and nailing them all.
Yeah, I don't know his name, but I know you're I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh, here's the video. I'm gonna put it in the chat right now. So I'm working with the kid right now on this move right here, and I was telling Combo about it, the delay, which is what Harden uses when it goes between the legs, and it's devastating. I just want to give a shout out to Nick out there, who I've been working with for a few weeks. He's in a game in Vegas right now last night, and apparently
he's playing a big time.
Yeah, whatever the big tournament is now in Vegas. And apparently he scored like 15 straight points on drives on this move that I just shared with you in the YouTube video. Is that a hyperlink? I don't know. Hopefully it comes up as a hyperlink, or you can copy and paste.
I don't even see a chat, Coach Nick. So can you send it to me?
Yeah, you don't see the chat when we're in this little room? Okay. Just have to be on YouTube. I'm using my phone. By the way, I'm using my phone. If you're wondering why this looks so good with my beautiful background. You see Camo, they're a sponsor, going to be a sponsor of mine. I'll give them a little early shout out, but I'm using my phone as my webcam, which is a really powerful thing, right? Because the phone is so good. And as a result, I can't text you right now.
All good later.
Yes. But anyway, but check out Camo. It's a really cool app. Although wait till I get my a code or whatever, and then you'll make me look better. But anyway, it's really cool. Imagine that, right? Because what other webcam can you use that gives you this kind of really nice looking blurred background?
You're right. I mean, there has to be something, right, to that level, like an extension to a USB. There's nothing out there, you think?
Well, this is it. But I haven't seen anything else that lets you do that. And using the darn Zoom thing with the awful blur, that's like a cutout of you is terrible. So this works really great. The one thing I would love to have is like a teleprompter. I wish I have there's teleprompter apps out there, but they don't use the blurred background version, so I can't have this and the teleprompter going, which would be awesome. But at any rate, enough of that. But anything else you want to talk about as we're getting toward the end of the show?
Did you guys already touched on the Draymond stuff?
Oh yeah. Really quickly, Cheeto wants to say that Estonia is in the Baltics, no chance there'll be a war there. Without question, it's just closer to what's going on in Ukraine than I want to be. And that's all. I'm sorry if it's weird or not, but I don't want to.
You could do something virtual with him, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, maybe. I just got to figure out how to connect with him. But what were we talking about? What's the next?
Chris was asked about Draymond.
Yeah, was that the max contract thing, right?
Yeah. We kind of went over it. I think my take on it was that Steph, Clay, and Draymond will band together and say we'll take a little less money so that you can, keep Wiggins or sign somebody or whatever.
Or Poole, right? It's because it's the Poole and Wiggins thing. But
they don't come up till when? Till next year?
I think he got 2 years left. This year and next
Poole?
year.
Wait, for Poole though?
No, for Draymond. I think Poole, right?
Well, it's when they may line up.
Poole looks like he's under contract for $3.9 million for this coming up year, and that's it. Can you believe that? Yeah. Like that's what a deal that is for a guy who's value. And then Wiggins is it makes a ton of money as it is, but he'll be up. That's the hardest one because Poole's going to go from $4 million to 28. Yeah,
maybe.
So they after the season, yeah.
But don't you think Draymond is the most? Well, After watching the finals, I think that Draymond is the most I don't want to say disposable, but the one you can let go. They don't need him. Offensively, they're just as devastating with or without. They probably you could make an argument he was hindering them on certain plays and in certain moments of the game because their offense was better without him on the court. So after watching that in the finals, like they don't need him offensively. They can get someone to do a little like 20-40% of what he does offensively, and I think they'll be fine.
Oh, well, wait, you could get someone to do 120% of what he does offensively, right? It's like because he's limited there, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. But it's the defense, right? That's what he's so great at. But can you find someone who can do 85% of what he does on defense? I think that's the question, right?
Yeah, that remains to be seen. But offensively, they're still devastating.
Well, we have another super chat. Let's put that up here from Braun. Here's the problem. I don't know who Emmanuel Hansel is.
So he is the kid from, I believe it's New York City because I seen him walking around not too long ago. He has one arm and he's explosive athlete who does 360 dunks and all kinds of stuff. And if you haven't seen him play, you have to see him play because he is exciting. And he recently had like a Gatorade commercial. He's doing well.
Yeah, you don't see him on the commercials with the one arm guy. I don't think he's actually from New York. I think I don't think he speaks English. Like I think I've seen it.
Yeah, but you know, there's I've seen him in New York. Like he's often in Washington Heights, which I'm in sometimes, and I think he. Okay. I know he's been around.
Is he from Dominican Republic? I think he's from Dominican. Okay.
Yeah. So Washington Heights is a Dominican neighborhood in New York City.
All right, so yikes! Let me turn that down. So he's played in the Drew League. Oh, he was at the Drew League. Oh man, I could have gone to see that. Listen, I'm not going to get COVID, but interesting. I almost could put this on. Should I put it on so people can see? Let's try this because I just realized I could share screens for that. So let's do this. Share a screen, and then I guess I could try doing. Let's see if I do a window here. Let's try this.
Ooh, there we go.
And then. Is that too small? Can we see that?
We can see it.
We can see it. Yeah.
Well, how about that? Whoa. Okay. Is this smooth too? Is it playing back smoothly?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
I mean, this might be a video, Coach Nick.
Oh, you're right. It should be. I wonder if he's still in LA. So let's see. How does he do this? Because like you could just force him to the left, but I guess you can't.
Yeah, I don't.
When there's a will. When there's a will, there's a way.
Oh, and he blocks shots too. Wow. All right. This is good. All right. Well, so there's your thoughts. At least you guys can weigh in. Let's see what this goes in here. Whoa. Okay. I like it. So yeah, I mean, listen, he's that's some serious adjustments to what would normally be a thing that would stop you from playing basketball. Wow. What were we just talking about before that? I was going to make a good point. I forgot. Oh, the only Emmanuel I know is the emu. You haven't seen the emu? Emmanuel and the emu? You haven't seen this viral video that's going on all over the place?
No.
Emmanuel, so the lady who's doing her videos on the farm, and Emmanuel keeps pecking at the camera. You don't know this? Oh my gosh! All right, I think you know what? Let's try that. How do I get out of this? Here. You haven't seen Emmanuel the emu? It's hilarious.
No.
Where is a good one? Here. Here it is. Let me go full screen. Let me turn off the volume. I can't get the volume. You know what? We'll do a volume. This is live. We're in the middle of July, right? We might as well go nuts here. Emmanuel the emu. And he's hilarious.
Oh, yeah, never seen this.
Who's made a name for himself?
This is not the actual.
Emmanuel, do not do it. Emmanuel, don't do it. Emmanuel.
That name is Emmanuel.
Emmanuel, don't do it.
You haven't seen
Whenever
this?
Taylor Blake tries to make a video at Knuckle Buddies, Sue.
Emmanuel, don't do it. Emmanuel.
Don't do what?
Emmanuel.
There you go. Emmanuel Todd Lopez. He's got 3 names. I love it. Anyhow.
Emmanuel. The man is just.
Anyway, I'm glad I could turn you on to something. This is a phenomenon you guys have missed.
I guess so.
Yeah, he's everywhere.
Who knew we needed more emus in our life?
Yes. Well, and there's another emu who's also like kind of catty and like is not friendly. But yeah, he's a savage, is what he is. He's awesome. And by the way, yeah, Ginobili's real name is Emmanuel, and I was going to name I was going to name him.
Speaking of that, you heard what Gilbert was saying, that like Jamal Crawford is a better basketball player than Manu.
That's not true.
Go look it up. Go look it up on Twitter. Something to that
There
effect.
was something else that they said recently, right?
And Jamal Crawford is great, but come on, you gotta be serious.
No,
I mean, at least it's not like Jordan Crawford, but Jamal Crawford. Yeah, Manu is a Hall of Famer. It's like,
but it was like his reasoning was crazy. Like if they played 1-on-1, what would happen? Like,
yeah.
Listen, I get it. I'm sure he's picturing like Jamal Crawford would do all the crazy stuff and embarrass him, whatever. But like that doesn't tell you anything,
No, but Crawford can't guard either.
There's plenty of guys that like aren't in the NBA that aren't even great basketball players that will beat people in the NBA 1-on-1. It's like a totally different sport.
And Manu in his prime was a really good defender who was really sneaky and good hands. Like,
it's not really a conversation, I don't think. Like, but
it's not.
No, there's a reason.
But Gilbert will say some weird stuff like that.
I'll tell you this though, Jamal Crawford. Well, Manu too is one of the best people to watch highlights on. Like his highlights are insane, Jamal Crawford. What he can do with the basketball.
Oh yeah. And Manu is one of those guys where it's like he was very unconventional, even in the movement patterns, and you'd have coaches probably like trying to like beat it out of him. And in fact, you have to encourage that. That's what made him so great.
Well, I think some of that is just where he came from, because when I first went overseas, like a lot of guys were doing that kind of stuff. Obviously not at the level of Manu, but you would see more like the same leg layups. And I used to be like, why is he shooting? Like it was a lot more Euros. Why is he shooting off that leg? I was thinking, like, you know what I mean?
Dude, we had when I was in high school, like maybe a sophomore, we played in this at the local gym with the old adults, and one of the adults brought a cousin of his who was our age, and he might have actually been a really good player. I can't remember now, but he came and he's from like Texas or something, and he was doing Euro steps from layups, and we were just laughing at him, literally laughing at him doing that. Not realizing that like this guy was doing what we all should have been doing, right? We just thought it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. The first time we ever saw Euro, circa 1987, whatever that was, probably before Marciulionis, although he was doing it, right? Although Marciulionis, I don't know if he did like the exact Euro that we kind of know now. He more of like he would change the cadence of the 1-2, but how in the same line.
How tall was Marciulionis? Golden State Warriors, right?
Yeah, he was probably 6'5". Lefty.
He was strong. He was strong, right?
Big legs, big thick legs.
Yeah.
And he could shoot. All those guys. Detlef Schrempf did it. He was really good too. I mean, those guys
did Drazen do it?
Petrovic, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and all those guys were good at like they would slow down the 1-2, and that was huge. That would throw everybody off, and make those down steps.
There's really smart people who think Drazen's one of the best shooters in NBA history. He just didn't get enough of a sample size.
Yeah, because he hopped into his shot most of the time.
Okay.
So, his form is beautiful also.
Yeah.
Look at some of his highlights. Like it's just picture perfect.
But I'm a huge hop guy because the rhythm is built into a hop and it's quicker. And man, he could do it. He could do it off the dribble. He could do it off the catch. It really is horrible what happened to him. But at least we got to see something. I can imagine he was sitting on the Portland bench and they got to the finals in 90, I think. And he couldn't get off the bench. A good team. Listen, they had a good team with Terry Porter and Cliff Robinson. Who was the other guard?
But imagine they just added him even as like 6-man spark, right? That would have been crazy.
Yeah, especially because there was a guy that was playing. Maybe his last name was Young. Wow, this is, I'm going to have dementia and like not recognize anybody, but I'm going to be talking at that at age 85 about this guard on the Blazers in 1990 in the finals, who was not good offensively at all, but he got all that extra playing time off the bench. I guess I can look it up.
Was he good defensively?
He probably was like good defensively, whatever. But it had to have been a thing where it's like, oh, he's a Euro player. Yeah,
so you think if they implement Drazen, they win that year? What is that, 92?
Maybe it was 92. It was. They lost to the Pistons.
No! In 92, they lost to the Bulls.
No, the Bulls won in 91, 92, 93. So it was 90. It was 90. I'm going to look it up just for fun. I think his name was Young, and he just wasn't a very skilled offensive player. And it was like that guy must have been seething, Petrovic on the bench, and then he gets to New Jersey, and just I mean, oh my God,
Lights it up.
Aren't there clips of him doing it to Michael?
It seems like his clips doing it to everyone.
Yeah, I feel like he was, because that was right then. I think there's moments where he was like not going to be intimidated by Michael. What am I looking for? I'm looking for Portland. I'm looking for the finals team in 1990. Wow, God, that's scrolling way back. There it is. Okay, so is it Young? Yeah, is it Danny Young? I think Danny Young. How about that? Danny Young playing. Let me make sure that he was playing like any kind of minutes.
Was Duckworth there?
Danny Young played 17 minutes off the bench. Duckworth was on that team. Absolutely. He was the start. I remember seeing Duckworth in Chicago playing like in the Pro-Am Summer League and didn't, it's like, whoa. And he didn't even look that good. He was actually pretty good, right?
I mean, big men in summer leagues isn't always like they don't get the ball a lot. That happens.
Yeah, Jerome Kersey was on that team. Like, that was a bad in the term meaning good. Like they were tough.
I mean, remember going into 92, there was like literally a debate. Who's better, Clyde Drexler or Michael Jordan? And then Mike ended all that.
Yeah, and that he shouldn't have had to even end that or begin it. But yeah, but Brett Drexler was very good. He was very good. But
see, I feel like that debate wouldn't happen, and I feel like the average NBA fan and even NBA media is way more advanced than they used to be, and they wouldn't have that debate right now in the way.
No, they would. They would.
The first part of your statement is correct. The average NBA fan is much smarter. You're welcome. But the second part, this is Twitter. It's like, what the hell? We're talking about Jordan Crawford versus Manu Ginobili. Like, come on. Like, that's the
No, we weren't. Jamal Crawford.
Jamal.
What did I say? Jordan? Jamal. Yeah. But Jamal Crawford versus Ginobili isn't that?
Well, no. Wait, that's not fans or media. That's a former NBA player. A former NBA star.
Yeah. Who went to
But his takes are just weird, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Gilbert is weird. Gilbert will tell you he's weird. We talked to him. He went to the high school I coached at first, just before I got there, and then played for a buddy of mine at Grant High School.
Coach Nick, let me ask you if you've seen this. I feel like hoopers put a lot of stock into skill set and craft, and one-on-one ability, and non-hoopers put a lot into like intangibles and.
I would like hoopers who value that as well, right?
No. I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying, what do they put more of their emphasis into, like when evaluating a player?
I mean, listen, it's not a surprise to me that Gilbert would say that because the way he played too was like he would value that. And let's just Crawford was a bad man. Like he would make you look silly, but then again, he was on 10 different teams and they all struggled to sort of win without him in a very specific role.
In the playoffs too.
Yeah. And so, it makes sense. But I would like to think that we're maybe as everyone's IQ is growing, we're learning more and more about the game, how it should be played or how it is played, that even like the hoopers would say, I'm trying to think of
I mean, I'm sure a lot of hoopers would say Manu is better than.
Yeah, I would hope.
I'm a hooper, man. Manu's better. That's it.
Yeah. And they could recognize, like, they know, what I mean? Like that he's serious. I would like to think that you can have those moments, even if it's in private, where they know it and they say it. I'm sure they do. I'm trying to think of who the guy is who is like, not like a TJ McConnell, but who's a guy who's like
that. Like hoopers love Michael Beasley and non-hoopers love TJ McConnell, right? In general. Like,
you got to be careful.
TJ McConnell isn't a good example,
right? And
okay, Lou Dort. Non-hoopers love Lou Dort, right?
No, I think it's back to like the Giannis and like the Hooper versus the basketball player, right?
Yeah. Well, so the Giannis
was on Twitter.
I think Rashad Phillips started that. Shouts to my guy. Rashad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was that thing. I think that's dumb, anyways. But whatever.
I mean, I see what Rashad is saying. There is a difference between hoopers and basketball players, and I think you could be both.
Right. I wonder what I was. I mean, I think I was probably always like the coach on the floor. But
So
I
yeah, I
should.
think you're a basketball player.
Like if I was a hooper, like every once in a while I'd screw around with like ISO and whatever, do all that stuff, and actually it would work. And I remember thinking to myself later, I'm like, well, why didn't I just do that? Like you just weren't allowed to, but
like Nicholas Batum is a basketball player and Jamal Crawford is a hooper. You see the difference?
Yeah, but that's just the style of play, right?
Yeah.
But like in winning, which player is more valuable if you want to win a game?
It depends. No, it depends on the situation.
I mean,
you think so?
Well, I mean, hoopers are great in certain. First of all, a lot of the best players are hoopers. Like Kyrie Irving's a hooper. Kevin Durant's a hooper. So like,
but Kyrie, that's true. But Kevin Durant and Kyrie are completely different. Like,
no, what I'm saying, like there's
skill wise, yeah. But like you have a chance of you're probably going to win if KD's on your team. Kyrie, you're gonna have a nice few plays and stuff like that. You probably lose. Like that's what shown. Like,
I don't think
I
don't think you could describe Kyrie as just a guy who makes a few nice plays and then you lose. I mean, he won a championship.
But with LeBron on his team, like
but he still won a championship as the second best player on a basketball team.
That's true, but that would be that would hold more weight if what Kyrie did without LeBron. If there was more to what Kyrie did without LeBron, the All NBAs, the playoff success, like he doesn't really have any of that.
I mean, listen, like, Kyrie's kind of left broken teams in his wake, I think, and that could be just locker room stuff, and more so than even like skill or whatever he's doing on the court. Although injuries too. So, you know, I get that. I understand where you're going with that, Chris, for sure. But yeah, who is there's probably the ultimate hooper in the NBA right now that no one, you know, isn't on the top of everyone's list.
So who's the ultimate hooper in the NBA right now?
Like I remember in 1994, I was in the locker room in Wisconsin, and like Michael Finley was there.
Oh,
they were talking about
Clarkson's a hooper. That's a hooper.
Gordon Clarkson. Oh, Clarkson. Okay, yeah. But like for instance, they like the best dunker they thought was Robert Pack, who was like nobody knew him. He barely played, whatever. But they knew him later. Like maybe the next year, he kind of won the dunk contest, whatever. But before that, they knew. So who is that now? I'm wondering who is the guy.
Say
now?
that. You got to say that all over. Say that all over, Coach Nick.
So I mean, the bottom line is, who is the guy now that like is the whispers in the locker room of like this guy is, you know, really really good and like no one.
Oh, I have one. I got a name.
Yeah,
Darius Garland.
Nah, but everybody knows him though. He's like an all-star level player almost already.
Kinda.
Okay.
But I think he's super skilled. I got you. Bones Highland.
Okay, like there now you're getting there. Now you're getting there. Somewhere like someone like that.
That got
yeah.
Quickly, what about Quickly out of New York?
I like Bones better personally, but Quickly's good because I like how Quickly gets his stuff off quickly. Ooh,
yeah, and he's not intimidated. He's like, you know. But
no, like honestly, I feel like he fits good in the modern NBA. I feel like he fits good in the modern NBA because he passes, shoots, and drives it quick. You know, like he's not dancing too much.
Yeah, no, this is a pretty good call. Kevin Porter is one of those. Although we're kind of getting wise to him as well. Unfortunately, there's other stuff that he's being notorious for. But that.
So you're saying completely like unknown kind of
like
thing.
No, he's the Hooper's favorite is a good way to put it.
I guess, but you got to be someone under the radar who like, you know, no one really knows yet. But we've seen, you know, the slightest bit of evidence in there. It's funny. It kind of reminds me. I was at Drew League a few years ago, and some guy shows up to play in the game. I think he was like played at USC, and you know, very unassuming looking. And I hate to be like, you know, but you know, it's just like a white guy, 6'3", whatever. Not. And he proceeded to score. It could have been 50 points. And in the most outrageous ways possible, in every kind of move imaginable. And you know, like he goes back to USC and might not even play. Like I couldn't even figure this out. But like that's the kind of thing where it's like sometimes these guys, and maybe we've seen them in the G League, maybe we've seen them, you know, in the college, whatever, and we're not getting it now. But like that, I'll never forget that. That was
I feel like a lot of NBA players have tremendous respect for Michael Beasley.
Okay, but
you know what I mean? Yeah, he's old. Yeah, he's older now. So there's probably somebody like that in the NBA for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just talking. I mean, listen, we're now Anthony Simons. I think that might be the best call of them all, because that guy's done stuff even, you know, now that's been.
He's really good. He's really good.
We'll ignore the spelling, but we know what he means. Yeah. Anthony Simons he's bad. He's a bad
Cam Thomas?
Nah, I don't think so.
He's
Not
a
yet.
bucket. He's a bucket though.
Not yet. He has a chance, but not yet.
I seen him take over in Madison Square Garden. You could look back at that.
That's
Yeah.
that one game.
I'm just saying though.
When everyone was out, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, good. I like it. I like Simons. I think that's a good call. I mean, hell, you could even go like Franz Wagner. I'm going to do a video on that.
I was going to say him. Yeah.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny? In college, he was a basketball player, and now he's becoming more of a hooper in the NBA.
Yeah. Well, that's not.
Well, they
surprising.
put the ball in his hands.
Yeah, college is much more like the coach has got his finger on everything and trying to keep everybody down or whatever. And the name, listen, if you haven't known by now, I'm very down on college coaching completely for most part.
It's really bad. It's really bad.
Stifling. And so it's not surprising to see that, and especially because we have better training methods now. We should see more of this. We should see guys coming in who didn't get a chance to show this. It's almost like it's funny because for a second there, Timmy out of Gonzaga, he had one workout and like, wow, you're not going to believe he can handle the ball. He's shooting off on the outside, whatever. And then he had a couple more workouts, and what happened? He's back in Gonzaga. I think he realized so like that. But that's the kind of guy you'd almost think would be like, oh, he's got all these skills we don't get to see because the coach isn't letting him do it. Kelvin Johnson is another one of those where is Pop keeping him down and doing the college thing with him, because I've seen a little bit of that from him. I think that's been really tough. But then I feel like he took a step back last year. Or am I crazy? Or maybe he played well last year.
He took a step forward. I love Kelvin Johnson. That's one. Yeah, that's one of my guys.
Oh, never mind. He did. I lost complete track of the Spurs last year. Hardly watched them. I don't know why.
They're not really fun to watch, especially this year. This year's going to be bad.
Yeah. Well, I don't. Is Pop gonna? Maybe this should have been the leadoff. Chip is gone. I wonder if that's what
once they drafted Josh Primo, I knew Pop was probably on his way out.
Do you think he's going to retire right now or like in the next few weeks?
Soon.
Maybe weird because obviously he'd have to retire before training camp, or else that would be just crappy of him to do and leave them in the lurch. But I don't know. I wonder if the Chip England leaving is the precursor to him retiring.
Yeah, they need to tank because they don't have any. They're not getting any high draft picks. You're not getting any stars or potential stars.
And Pop won't tank.
Right. So
if he would have tanked at least 1 year,
Pop tanked to get Duncan and Robinson.
Yeah.
Okay. They were the original tankers before we even knew what that term was.
So he was ahead of the curve.
He was.
Nobody else was tanking, and then once everybody else is tanking, he stopped.
Nobody ever.
Robinson was injured, and they could have brought him back, but they're like, nah, you're gonna sit up for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I would say that the bottom NBA teams this year are really fun.
Yeah. Now Pop might not have been there when they got Robinson, but my memory was they also tanked to get Robinson out of Navy.
But he couldn't play for a few years, right? Because of
right, he had his Navy commitment for 2 years, which is silly because the dude was 7 feet tall. I couldn't fit on a ship. But they made him do office work or whatever. But yeah,
it's so dumb.
That's a crazy story. So that talk about losing 2 years of your NBA career. Wow,
absolutely.
Anyway, and shouts out to David Robinson on my bachelor party in Vegas. He came over and said hello. That was very nice.
That's super cool.
Happened to be in the same restaurant. Everybody brought him over.
Whoa, wait, what's a Coach Nick bachelor party like? That's what we want.
It's like every other bachelor party that you've been to in Vegas, pretty much. Sort of. Anybody.
Like The Hangover?
Yeah, no death, no naked, dudes running around, whatever. I watched that, by the way, The Hangover, not too long ago. I think I was on a plane, and everybody in the plane must have thought I was insane because I was cackling out loud every fucking such a great movie. We have another super chat. Wow, I didn't think we were going to get one, but from Timbo Bimbo 2. Thank you so much. Very generous of you. Coach Nick for next San Antonio head coach. Wow. That would be a jump, I suppose, but not to say that I'm not maybe trying to figure out a way of getting into the NBA.
Wait. Time out. A jump? You're doing live shows with Combo, and you think that's a jump? Come on, Coach Nick. Get it together, man. Come on, man.
Hey, listen, we all start somewhere, so you're right. But Anyhow, that would be a nice story, wouldn't it? Like YouTube guy gets hired by an NBA, not the head coach, but like gets hired. That would be an interesting story. So, anyway.
Well, I mean, like I think, well, I guess what Mike Schmitz did is not new media, but he's definitely in media. Actually, you know what? He started with that draft website, so it was new media.
Mike Schmitz.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure, for sure. And then look what he did, yeah, for sure. And the work that he does and how hard he works. I mean, traveling and all the stuff he was doing for all those years. The best part about that was that he started when he was 19 or whatever, and so he's still young. YouTube didn't even exist until I was older than 30. So that's my one lament. I wish this was around when I was 22 because this would have been amazing. But then again, I probably wouldn't have had my family and I wouldn't have whatever. By the way, I was always that guy because as a manager at Wisconsin, I keep talking about it. You become a nomad out in that trajectory to become a coach, like in college, right? You might be 2 or 3 years in one place and 2 or 3 years in another place. Get fired. The head coach gets fired. You get fired. And I never wanted to do that. Never. So here I am. But at any rate, well, listen, I think the show is, I think, we're ready to wrap up. What do you think? Let's leave them wanting more. How about that? But anyway, thank you so much, Chris, for jumping in here. This was awesome combo as always. We'll be back at it again next week. I'm around. Are you around?
Yes, sir. Most likely Tuesday, I would say. All right.
And Chris, if you pop up in the comments, we'll bring you back in too, and we'll go from there. But anyhow, thank you all for that. Thank you for the super chats. Great show today. And don't forget, sports fans, at P-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel. We're a conversation. You in? Are you in, guys?